everybody, this is Jim the Tabletop Engineer, and welcome to another playthrough game. Today I am playing a game called a Mythos Tale, actually it's just Mythos Tales. It is a Cthulhu, Lovecraft, Mythos type investigation game, and it's based on sort of props, but it's also meant to be played, you can play it solo or you can play it in a group, but it's meant to be played as an investigation and a social game where you're trying to solve a mystery. Now, it does involve some props. There are numerous investigations. I'm starting with the first one called A Grain of Evil. It takes place on June 30th, 1929. And the way this works is, for each investigation, there is a newspaper clipping. So I've got this right here. I have a directory, which is going to help me find people to interview and places to visit on this map of Arkham. And then once I'm at a location, I will use this hardback book here to read the letter and the number. So the way this works is you'll see there's letters like R, F. And then within them, there are buildings, and they've numbered 65, 66, 67. And a lot of these will correspond to entries in the book. Some will not be there. If I choose to visit a location that does not have something to read, it does not penalize me. It does not count against me. Only those locations that can actually be investigated or spots where people are located, things like that. Now, there is a time limit and each investigation tells you. So I am starting on the morning of day 1, and Professor Armitage tells me that I need to be wrapped up by afternoon on day 5. At the end of when the time runs out, I return to him and we discuss. There will be questions that I will have to answer based on my notes that I'll be taking during my investigation, and I'll be scored on that. Now, let me go ahead and read this to you. Armitage says, let me read the investigation to you. Responding eagerly to a telegram from your friend and mentor, you rush to the Miskatonic University Orne Library. There is a warm summer breeze gently rustling the trees, allowing the dappled sunlight to flicker lightly onto the streets. You cross the university quad to reach a great Gothic entrance. Professor Henry Armitage, Miskatonic's erudite librarian, greets you at the polished wooden door to his office. He leans on his cane, his wrinkled face crackling into a smile. Well then, I have an interesting little problem for us to explore. It has been some time since we exercised your deductive faculties, so how about a simple mystery to get you going again? Obviously, there is a chance that the events last evening involve more than a simple crime, but I do not believe that to be the case. However, after my experience of last summer, one can never be too careful. He shudders visibly upon alluding to his confrontation with the Watleys in the village of Dunwich. Armitage settles in a chair, adjusting the violets on his desk. Inspector Garrison called over breakfast this morning and precipitated my note to your good self. It seems the inspector is at a loss and requires our specialist assistance. Last evening, as you may have noted from this morning's edition of the Arkham Advertiser, a disturbance occurred on West High Street. It was a pleasant enough evening, and at 7 o'clock the streets were relatively full. A young woman, well-dressed and of seemingly good health, collapsed on the sidewalk after emerging in a state of distress from the uptown park. A small crowd gathered to assist the young lady. An orderly from St. Mary's Hospital and his wife stooped to revive her, and a policeman was found. The orderly noticed a growing crimson stain seeping into the woman's blouse. He slit the garment free with his pocket knife. At once the horrific nature of a wound in the lady's chest was apparent, and he stemmed the steadily increasing flow of blood. I'm happy to report that disaster was averted by his quick thinking. An ambulance arrived in a good time to take her to the hospital, and they have managed to stabilize her condition. The librarian pauses to sip coffee from a delicate cup. The policeman assumed this was an attack by an unknown assailant until the woman regained consciousness momentarily in the ambulance. She raved nonsensical syllables before crying out that the trees were alive. Alive! Whilst dealing with the mysterious lady, the policeman was sharp-eyed enough to spot a man lingering in the crowd of onlookers. The man was acting in a furtive way, watching the proceedings with a curious detachment. He was tall, over 6 feet, with a worn brown suit and dark hair, and a distinctive birthmark under his left eye. When the policeman called out to the man, he fled the scene. Being preoccupied with the lady, the policeman was not able to pursue and noted a description in his pocketbook. Armitage sits back, the leather of his chair creaking. He steeples his fingers. The identity of both the woman and this mysterious fugitive remain a mystery. It is also for us to determine if there are forces beyond the mundane at work. You'd better get going. Let Garrison's men take care of the crime scene. They do get rather protective. Oh, before you set off, Armitage says, remember, if you need help, come see me at my home. I am unlikely to be in my office when working a case. All right, so I need to go ahead and start taking some notes here. Today is June 30th, 1929. I am meeting at Miskatonic University with Armitage, and he's given me a bit of information here. First off, Inspector Garrison, is the one who initiated the talk. He mentions the Arkham Advertiser, which I have in front of me. A disturbance on West High Street. He says it happened at 7 a.m. 7 p.m., excuse me. Disturbance occurred on West Side, 7 evening. A young woman, well-dressed. We don't have her name yet. Don't have her name. She was well-dressed, good health. Collapsed on the sidewalk in a state of distress from the Uptown Park. So there's another location. Uptown Park. Location. A small crowd gathered. An orderly from St. Mary's. All right, so there's possibly St. Mary's Hospital. There was an orderly and his wife rescued her. They stemmed the blood. She was taken to the hospital. And then it says the policeman assumed it was attacked by an assailant, but she mentions an unknown figure. He says he was described as greater than 6 feet tall, worn brown suit, dark hair, and a mark under his left eye. Mark under left eye. All right. And he says the identity of the woman and the figure remain a mystery. So I'm thinking that possibly we're supposed to discover her name and his name, or his identity. Let Garrison's men take care of the crime scene. Well, the crime scene was West High Street or Uptown Park. A disturbance occurred on West High Street. So West High Street may not be out for investigation, but Uptown Park probably is. He's warning me away from that. All right, so the way this works is I have some basic information. I also have this Arkham Advertiser. I've read this prior to starting the video because I didn't want to sit there and read it all to you. It's this one right here. Woman attacked in an Uptown Park. A disturbance at 7 p.m. West High, collapsed, injuries. Ambulance took the woman to St. Mary's. Detective Garrison made an appeal to witnesses and states that this is not a common occurrence in that area. And that's pretty much it. Now, there are some other interesting things here, but I don't think they're related. For instance, there's a moonshine-related death, some smuggling at the river dock. There's been a theft at the University Exhibit Museum. It's possible that could come into play. Now, when the investigation ends, I am not allowed to reference the newspaper again. But for now, I can look at it. So let's decide, where do we want to go? Now, I start on the morning of day one. And then when I travel, Anytime I travel to a location, I'll move this down. So it'll go morning, afternoon, evening, and then back to day 2. So I've got basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 days, 12 time periods to do an investigation. Not a lot. All right, so where do we want to start? Do we want to maybe... It says not to be, he told us not to visit Uptown Park, but that is where the crime was committed. And we don't have any information on the unknown figure. We could go to the hospital to interview the woman. That's a possibility. Let's do that. So I'm going to make a note in my journal here that the first travel, which is day 1, afternoon, I'm going to the hospital, St. Mary's. So this Arkham directory is supposed to be your guide. The way it works is you basically look for the district, and they have letters, and then there's numbers. So if I want to go to Miskatonic University, it's at C15. So I look at C, and I find 15 on here, and 15 is right here. That's Miskatonic University. Now West Street runs all the way. So it's a long street. So investigating that is not really an option. Let's look up St. Mary's Hospital, and these are all alphabetical. So I'll go to S's first. St. Mary's, and is Saint spelled out? There's a Sacred Heart Church. Here it is. St. Mary's Teaching Hospital is at C11. So remember, I'm at Armitage's office. Now, it doesn't matter where you start, but just so you know, Armitage's office is at Miskatonic University. So I'm going from C15 to C11. So I'm not having to travel that far. C11 is almost across the street. There it is, C11. So the way this works is I am going to go to St. Mary's Hospital to see if I can interview the woman. And it's C11. So I take the book. And what I do is I put this here to indicate where I am, little question mark, and I'm going to go to C11. Armitage often mentions his friend, Dr. Vincent Sutton, as being a useful point of contact at the hospital, and you ask for the doctor at the front desk. The stern administration assistant frowns at your request, but dispatches a message to Sutton all the same. After you wait for what seems like an age, Dr. Sutton appears and greets you in a detached and professional manner. He is in his mid-40s, and his clean-shaven head amplifies the size of his thick horn-rimmed glasses. He allows a cursory nod when you tell him the reason for your visit. Of course, Armitage told me to expect you, he says. You explained that you were investigating the mysterious case of the woman brought into the hospital after her collapse at the park. I'm going to write down some notes here. So it's Dr. Vincent Sutton, mid-age, clean-shaven. Okay. You explain you're investigating the mysterious case of the one brought into the hospital after a collapse. It's not my case, but let's head up to the wards and see what we can find out. Sutton, and I'm trying not to look over here, Sutton leads you through the white halls, weaving in and out of the foot traffic. On the way up, he asks whether Armitage expressed interest in the lights dancing around at the nearby Emperor home. Lights at Emperor home. Some of the hospital workers have seen them, and the old building is supposed to be abandoned. When you tell them that Armitage hadn't mentioned it, the doctor shrugs. You arrive at Ward 6, and Dr. Sutton makes his way to a row of beds, stopping at the foot of one containing an attractive young woman. The woman is sleeping soundly, and Sutton lifts the chart from the end of the bed and consults the notes. We still don't have her name. She is listed here as a Jane Doe, so we'll just put Jane Doe for now. Strange, the wound on her chest was deep, likely created by a sharp blade cutting into the flesh. However, 5 of the upper ribs on the left side were also fractured during her incident. It is as though someone removed or was attempting to remove something from her chest cavity. Most unusual. Dr. Noyes conducted the surgery to reset the bone. Speaking of unusual, Noyes cleared away a good deal of brownish-colored mucus from the wound. He sent a sample to the lab. Okay, hold on. the wound sample went to the university. It says the lab assistant was sent to the university library to consult medical treatises as they were unsure of what the substance consisted. Pasquale knows about strange things as well. Who is Pasquale? I wonder if that's the name of the lab assistant. Speaking of Noise, Dr. Noise. As Sutton ends his speech, a nurse arrives to administer a shot. No sooner is the needle withdrawn from the woman's arm, she thrashes in her bed. Sutton does not look concerned, and he pats the nurse on the shoulder. The discomfort will quickly pass. Then, shockingly, the woman's eyes snap open and she screams a piercing shriek. Sutton calls for help as the woman raves madness, spittle dripping from her chin. Only at Bayfriars, but no, not there. The trees, why are they walking? Edward, where is my Edward? Who is Edward? Edward, we were supposed to meet at the bell. Why were we here? Why are we here? Edward, it hurts. Edward, stop, stop. Sutton steps in and holds the woman's shoulders, talking to her in a calm voice. After a few minutes of delirium, the woman slips into a peaceful rest. She's really been through the mill, Sutton says. The wound will heal just fine, given time. However, as you have seen firsthand, there are some scars that are beyond our ability to repair. You have learned all you can from the good doctor. Her effects were taken by the police. I think they were taken over to the criminologist, Dr. Corbett, Dr. Corbett, I believe, has her effects. Okay. Who is Edward? Please let me know if you uncover her identity. I'd like to contact family members. She needs someone to look after her. Well, okay, so we got a lot of information there. The doctor does not give me any odd... He's a friend of Armitage. He took us there without any kind of resistance. He does seem to care about the woman, so I'm thinking he's not really a suspect right now. The lights at Emperor Hotel, I think that's a... Armitage didn't mention it, so I'm not going to waste time. Although it was mentioned in here. Where was it? Strange lights. Properties. Would the owner of the Emperor home be sure to secure the property, as workers from the hospital have seen lights on the third floor? So there is a confirmation there that there are some issues with the lights at the Emperor home. Okay, so I think that's for a later investigation, probably. Jane Doe, we still don't know her name. We have confirmed she was injured, but she seems to be doing okay. There was a sample sent to the university library. Somebody named Pasquale. She mentions Edward, and that could be the gentleman that was spotted with dark hair, but who knows? We don't know enough about that yet. And then, of course, Dr. Corbett has her effects. So we have two possible clues here. We can go get some news about the sample that was taken from her chest, the slime or whatever. Or we could go talk to Dr. Corbett and see if she had anything on her person that would help. We're at the hospital, so let's go travel and talk to Dr. Corbett. So we go back in the thing and we go to Corbett and we look, and Corbett. There is only one Corbett here, H, D45. D45. All right, so let's do that. We will do a second travel to, and this is on day 1, and we're going to go find Dr. Corbett. And it was D45, I believe it said. Let me confirm that just to be sure. Corbett was D45. So we're going to head there. So we open the book to D45. And remember, we stay in the investigation section here. So we go over to D45. Here we go. There is a D45. You rap on the door to Herbert Corbett's lab. And after a moment, you are greeted by his helper. He recognizes you and shows you through to Corbett's workroom. The workroom is a chemistry lab with several Bunsen burners blazing away. Herbert is huddled over a bench. On his head, he wears a magnifying apparatus, which he lifts to greet you. Welcome to my criminology lab. He shakes your hand. Sensing that this man is kept very busy, you don't waste any time with unpleasantries and ask about the attack on the woman in Uptown Park. Ah, yes, a strange one. I believe that I can shed some light on her lodgings, if nothing else. Corbett reveals a brown cardboard box. Garrison left these for me to examine. The blouse, as you can see, is saturated with blood from a wound on her chest. I was interested to note that the blouse was not damaged before she was administered first aid. That is odd. So the damage did not do anything, damage not visible initially on her clothes. That's weird. This suggests that the blouse was put on after the injury occurred. That would be odd. More revealing is the lady's purse, which contains an address. Let me see. Here, he rummages in the box. This is a bill from Rennie's boarding house. And a receipt confirming that she had paid for the next month's rent in advance. There is a receipt as well from a bookstore. And the bookstore, a receipt from Meredith's Used Books. And it says, $3, received with thanks for Coleridge's collected poems. To be inscribed on the inside cover with, to Edward with all my love. So, all right, so Edward was going to get a book of Coleridge's collected poems. That, I don't know. That seems like a red herring, right? That seems like a wild goose chase, but I don't know. We'll think about that. All right, so the visit here did tell me a couple things. The damage was underneath the shirt, or she put it on afterwards, but that doesn't seem right because she came running out. She was injured. How would she have taken the time to put a shirt on? I don't think so. The bill from Rennie's boarding house is interesting. I don't know if visiting, but maybe that would let me look at her home. But we've still got plenty of time here. We've gone and visited Dr. Corbett. And we also we did not go to the university library to look up Pasquale, about the sample. I went to look at her effects. So we've got a few choices here. We could go to the university library to find out about the sample that was taken from her. We could go check out the boarding house. Or we could go visit Uptown Park where the crime occurred. Although, like I said, we were kind of warned against that. But, hey, what are they going to do? Arrest us, right? It's the evening, so we will go home, have a nap, have sleep, and we'll come back on day 2. And on day 2, for our third travel, the sample that was taken from her chest, let's go investigate that. So to do that, the university library, and all we have is the university library and Pasquale. Let's look up Pasquale. Pasco. There is no Pasquale in here. Pasquale. What would that be? Let me look up the university library. University library. University library. It's not in here, so it must be. Just look up Miskatonic Library, maybe. Library. Let's look up just library. No library. All right, Miskatonic, the university library. Okay, so I looked up. Here's Miskatonic garage, bank, parlor. Nothing about a library. How about university? No. University shoe store. Well, I tell you what. We can't find anything for that. Pasquale. That that was a name that stood out, but it's not showing up in here. There's a Pasco, G. Pasco, but that's not even close. Pasquale. Rather than, let's go check out the boarding home. Rennie's boarding house. So let's go look the R's. Rennie's boarding house is here. F16. Rennie's boarding house at F16. We'll travel there. We're on our day 2. And we'll go to F16. Yep, there is something here. The 3-story clapperboard house on Litch Street is neat and presentable. A small sign advertises Rennie's boarding house that has vacant rooms. You were greeted at the front desk by one of the Rennie twins, Thomas. Thomas Rennie, twin. A friendly man in his 30s with a mop of dark hair. Interesting, dark hair. Are you wanting to rent a room? You described the woman in the hospital who was attacked, explaining that she had a receipt for payment for one of his rooms. Well, that sounds like Martha Modine. Uh-oh, maybe we have a name. That's the victim, maybe. Maybe. I'll put a question mark. She has been with us for over a year. I believe she works over on Main Street, which is where the event happened, in one of our stores. In one of these stores. I do hope she's okay. She has a kind heart, always willing to do kindness for a stranger. She's smitten as well, having recently fallen in love with a man named Mr. Hartwell. Mr. Hartwell. That is probably Edward. Don't care for him too much. Surly eyes, makes my dog bark every time he is around. My dogs never bark. Clearly young Martha can see redeeming qualities, I suppose. You ask if you may see Martha's room, and he agrees, striding past you, brandishing a pass key. Martha's room is modest but well kept and pleasantly decorated. On a small bookcase there are several works of poetry. Okay. A photograph in a frame on the mantel catches your eye. You walk over and examine it. It is the picture of a lady and a gentleman, and there can be no doubt that this is the woman that Armitage described. The couple gazes lovingly at one another with that faraway dreamy look of a movie romance. The man has a small birthmark under his left eye. Okay, so we know Edward is probably Mr. Hartwell. Thomas says, that's them, Martha and Hartwell, though he looks as though butter wouldn't melt in his mouth, unlike her, meaning he's cold. You ask for more information on Hartwell, and Rennie tells you that Hartwell has been seeing Martha for several weeks, and that he has a house on the lower south side, on East Saltonstall Street. East Saltonstall Street. My handwriting is atrocious. All right. So we went to F16, so it was over here somewhere. I should have been moving these around. Actually, I have numerous ones of these. We also went to see the doctor at the hospital, right? Then we went to Rennie's boarding house, and I think that's it. Dr. Corbett, we went to see him. He was at D45, so that was another one we went to. So D was up here. Wow, we really traveled. D45, where are you? 45, 52, 27. Where is it? Oh, right there, D45. All right, that ends day 2 morning, and let's keep going. All right, so after we got that, we've got a few things here. All right, we visited the boarding house. Can't figure out this university library link with Pasquale. Jane Doe, sample sent to the university library. Oh, it's called Orne. Isn't it called Orne Library? That's what it was. Orne Library, C23. Okay, let's take a chance. Let's go on day 2, 4th travel. We're going to go to the Orne Library. And Orne Library was, what did I say, C22? Oh, look at this. Hold on. There's boarding houses. It's also got an index here. Let's look at the university. I bet you we could have figured that out. University is, yep, library. Library. It's called the Orne Library. There it is, C23. All right, so Got to remember that in the back of the book, there are better ways to do this. So we are at afternoon on day 2. All right, let's try it. C23. C23. You come across Miss Sargent amongst the stacks in the Orne Library. Who is Mrs. Sargent? She was mentioned earlier. Don't tell me old Armitage has got you working on a Sunday, she says with a grin. What is it you need from our repository today? You explain the nature of your visit, and your request is met with a curious look. It's funny you should say that, because the hospital has me working on something that came out of a patient. I've had to move on to some of our more esoteric volumes after I drew a blank. Come on, I'll show you what I've got up to. Miss Sargent leads you up a narrow flight of stairs through a door marked restricted, no entry, and into the restricted reading room. The librarian crosses to a heavy reading table made of solid oak and shows you an ancient tome resting there. This is the dreaded De Vermi Mysterious. I'm mangling that, but that's okay. Written by the German von Prin. I am working on a translation in my spare time. Her fingers waver over a page, shaking nervously. Here the book speaks about a mucus residue being a byproduct of ritual sacrifice. The book also speaks of the guardians of occult ritual. Horrible monsters called the Dark Young of Shub-Niggurath. Dark Young of Shub-Niggurath. Hold on, I know another book that references this. The librarian moves to the shelf and hefts down another tome with the title Ibon. These are book titles, so I'll underline them. Embossed in gold upon its spine. She flips through the pages. Here is a story of the creatures called the Dark Young of Shub-Niggurath, about a Teutonic knight in the 12th century who led a band of villagers into battle against the evil living in the forest. It reads, Ever their praises and abundance to the black goat of the woods. La Shub-Niggurath, the black goat of the woods with 1,000 tongues. The Shub are the height of 4 men. Let's see. This text roughly translate. They are able to stand perfectly still and lurk in the shadows of trees as if blending, waiting upon its prey and attacking with tentacles that sprout from their heads. Miss Sargent pauses, hand over her mouth. Well, they sound frankly disgusting. I assume this is a variation on the Grendel myth from the Beowulf saga. All right. Let's see. All right, we have 2 books. And we have mention of a creature that blends with the trees. She described that the trees were moving. She also said Edward is missing. Edward's been described as very cold, not very nice. I am starting to wonder if he might be involved in a cult that has summoned these creatures and they attacked her. But for now, we visited that one. We've still got some time to investigate. I think it's time to go. Well, we can go investigate Hartwell, Edward Hartwell's location. But before we do, let's go to the crime scene. So we visited the University Library. We did that one. Let's go to Uptown Park. All right, so Uptown Park. Our parks listed back here. Park. These are people's names. All right, so I got to remember that locations are further back here. All right, churches, diners, financial institutions, gas stations, local lifestyle. Nothing there. Uptown Park. Uptown Park. Well, where would that be? Stores, clubs, transportation, university. Well, he did mention a store on Uptown Park. But he said one of the stores. He didn't give a name of a store. But there was that receipt from a bookstore. Where is the bookstore located? It was called Meredith's Used Books Stores. Meredith's is on M50. M50, which is right here, is on East Main Street. Is that where the attack occurred? In West High Street. So West High Street is up here. Where is West? No, there's West High Lane. Where is West High Street? West High Street. West High Street is right here. And it's nowhere near that business. This is weird. Okay, so she was West High Street, Uptown Park. Is there a park on West High Street? There's got to be a park here, right? West High Street, park. Schools, clubs, stores, transportation, other locations. Not there. Independence Square, but no Uptown Park. But it's got to be it wouldn't have mentioned it. Uptown Park. Local culture. Hold on. Nope. Boarding houses we already visited. It's not a church. Local culture. Nope. Diners, nothing. Financial institutions, gas stations, graveyards. No. Hotels. I'm not seeing anything that would get me to Uptown Park. Garrett. We do have his name. Let's go talk to Garrett, the police guy. Maybe. Garrett. Garrison, wasn't it? Garrison? Yes. There's only one Garrison, D85. Let's do that. It's the evening. Let's do day 2. Evening. This is my 5th trip. We're going to go see Garrett. Or Garrison. Garrison. And once again, I gotta look at his name. Garrison. D85. D85. Let's try it. I'm running out of options here. I can't figure out how to get to Uptown. D85. And there is no D85. So I don't have to worry. I don't have to waste that. It doesn't count against me, but it does count as a travel time. The rules say, let me read this to you. The rules say that you do the travel step, which I did. It says encountering, if the player's first, okay, the players advance even if they discover there is no corresponding printed coordinate in the book for the location. So I wasted a trip. All right, well, that's a bummer. What else do we have? Uptown Park, West High. Uptown Park has got to be his location, Mr. Hartwell, Lower East Side. So let's look up East Sawgate Street. Let's see if we can do that. Martha Modine, the victim. Wow, we already visited her. Hartwell. Hartwell is in here, is it? Hartwell. Edward Hartwell. L26. Let's do it. L26. So, unfortunately, the evening is over. I'm on day 3. Morning. I'm going to go visit E. Hartwell at L26. Hopefully this is not a waste of a trip. L26. There is. Okay. Edward Hartwell's home is average and unassuming. A cat draws your attention as you step forward to knock on the door. The mangy feline is backing away from a basement window. The poor creature's eyes are wide and its back is arched, hair standing on end. It's hissing in the most fearsome way. You knock on the door, and when there is no reply, you knock again. As minutes tick by, you decide that a closer inspection of the rear of the property might be in order. After all, if his lady was injured, there is a chance that someone may have attempted to injure Edward Hartwell as well. The yard at the back of the building is well tended, and the fence is new and painted. The back door is unlocked. Stealing inside quickly so you are not observed, you find yourself in a clean and tidy kitchen. The cutlery and plates are neatly washed and stacked on the drying board. The attention to tidiness continues in each room. A pile of mail addressed to Edward Hartwell sits on a small table near the front door. Remembering the cat, you discover a small cellar door in the kitchen and head down into the basement, where a bare flickering bulb illuminates a small workroom. Discarded under a workbench is a small broken packing crate stamped with the Miskatonic Museum's address. On the bench lies a wickedly sharp, straight-bladed dagger, etched with unusual symbols on its wooden hilt. The razor-sharp blade reveals flecks of red stain. Next to the dagger is a bowl, also stained dark red. Your stomach lurches at the uncomfortable thought that these are the implements that injured the woman at the hospital. A few pieces of old parchment with indecipherable crabbed handwriting lie scattered nearby. Placed next to the parchment is an open wooden box containing 4 large grain seeds. Each is about the length of your fingernail and jet black. Leaving everything as you found it, you exit the property the way you came. Okay. So there is a box, a crate, stamped Miskatonic Museum. A few pieces of old parchment, crabbed handwriting. Placed near the parchment is an open box containing 4 large grain seeds. I don't know what those are. 4 seeds. But it's this Miskatonic address. The newspaper mentioned a theft, and so did someone else. They asked about I did. Theft, delay. The much anticipated new series of exhibitions at the University Exhibit Museum have been delayed. About a missing artifact. Dr. Robert Gladding, Jr. curator, spoke to a reporter. He confirmed at least one of the new artifacts on loan has disappeared. At first, it was suspected the artifact had been misplaced, but on examination of the incorrect assignment, although theft is unlikely, the artifact in question has little value. We cannot rule it out. So, could it be related to the museum? I mean, obviously there is a crate. They didn't mention that he has anything to do with the museum. I'm running out of time, right? I'm on the 3rd day of the morning. Well, we've gone to visit his location, and he wasn't there. That Pasquale, that's going to bug me. These books, Dr. De Vermis Mysteries and Ivan, are those wouldn't be listed in here. Why would they? No. But they were underlined or bolded or whatever. But I guess that's because they're books. Maybe we go to the Miskatonic Museum. I'm running out of options. Let's think about it. So the University Museum. It's not the university. It's not the Miskatonic, was it? Yeah, it was. It was called Miskatonic Museum. But the university doesn't have a museum listed in the book. How about just museums? Churches, funeral, boarding houses, diners, local culture. University Exhibit Museum. There it is. C24. We're going to go in the afternoon on day 3. We're going to the museum. C24. C24. The University Exhibit Museum is closed, so the iron-studded doors are fastened tight. On a hunch, you head around to the side of the building to the loading dock. There are several workers and a policeman lingering on the dock. The policeman is taking statements from 2 men dressed as watchmen. To one side, nervously pacing, is an academic type in a dust-covered suit. You approach the academic, who introduces himself as Dr. Robert Gladding. Hold on. That name was mentioned in that thing. A junior curator of the museum. I can't believe this has happened. This exhibit was going to be the thing that secured me the job of senior curator. Now Richard is to get the post for sure. As he wrings his hands, you learn that both he and Richard Jedry, the other junior curator, have been competing for the vacancy of a senior position. Both were given exhibits to display. A well-respected curator is arriving from Boston to present the board with his opinion on which man should get promoted. Who would steal a 12th century ritual bowl except someone wishing to sabotage my exhibit? It's not worth anything to anyone, despite its age. There were very few people who even knew of the bowl's arrival. There was a bowl in Hartwell's house, the one with blood stains. Just the University Museum staff and the staff of Rare Books and Maps. What will Mr. Ingram think? I'd better send a message over to Bancroft Arms to let him know. Ingram. There were a few people who even knew the bowls were out. Just the University Museum and the staff of Rare Books and Maps. Bancroft Arms. All right, so we've got Richard Jedry, a competitor. It stands that Dr. Robert Gladding is very upset. Something was stolen that could affect his career. Richard Jedry may very well have sabotaged him because he asks, who would steal it? Well, you're a competitor. But he also mentions Rare Books and Maps. And he also mentions Bancroft Arms. A name, Mr. Ingram. Okay. I'm thinking the reason I can't find Uptown Park is, as Armitage suggested, I don't even need to go there. There's really no reason to go there. So, let's look up Richard Jedry. I would like to know more about this guy. Jedry. Richard Jedry. There is an R. Jedry. Yep. At F54. The Rare Books and Maps. Let's go back here to stores. Rare Books and Maps is at N24. And Bancroft Arms, I don't know what that is. Ingram. What is Bancroft Arms? That sounds like a hotel or a... Let's look up hotels. The Bancroft Arms Hotel. That is at N34. So Mr. Ingram, Mr. Ingram is the curator, and it says he's supposed to arrive any day now. That could be a waste of time. He may not even be there. So let's hold off on that. Let's go see this Richard Jedry. So for day 3 evening, I'm going to go, this is my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is my 8th trip. Is that right? 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th. Yep. 8th trip. I'm running out of time. We're going to go to F54. And there is something there. Richard Jedry is an amiable man in his late 20s, dressed in a bohemian manner. He tells you that he had nothing to do with the missing artifact. You further note that he appears sincere about Gladding's distress. He confirms that the judge of the exhibit was supposed to be Mr. Victor Ingram from the Boston Museum. Well, that turned out to be nothing. All right. The bowl was stolen, and it looks like it could have been the bowl that was mentioned in Hartwell's home. We didn't find Hartwell. We still haven't. The Rare Books and Maps may give us an idea about how the bowl could have been used. Let's go there. So day 4, morning, I'm going to go to N24, Rare Books. N24. So I got to move this here. N24. Is there an N24? Yes, there is. All right. The small, wizened woman sits behind the counter at Rare Books and Maps and squints over her half-moon spectacles. You describe to her the theft from the museum. Yes, I might be able to help you with that, dear. I was asked by one of the junior curators of the museum to set aside several tomes of ancient mythology for him. He wanted to conduct additional research to make his latest exhibit ring with authenticity. You ask about the bowl that was taken from the museum, and the woman nods and pulls out a slim pamphlet titled From Nakadas to Present. That is what was taken then. They didn't tell me. Well, see here. That bowl is a Kathotha birthing dish from Central Europe, dating all the way back to the Crusades. She shows you a page with a hand-drawn pencil sketch of the bowl. It says here the bowl is used in tribal ceremonies of certain depraved Germanic sects. It is used to hold or protect a new life brought into this world through birth. Strange. It doesn't look big enough to hold a baby. All right, I'm starting to think that those seeds were these what was it called? Dark young of Shub-Niggurath. And the bowl, he put them in there, and they have grown into these bigger creatures. So that is good. So we did that. The evening trip was to Jedri, and we did that. That's fine. I think all that's left is to go to the Bancroft Arms and see if this Ingram has arrived yet. So day 4 afternoon, I'm going to go to Bancroft Arms, N34. N34. The Bancroft Arms Hotel is the kind of establishment you wouldn't associate with a visiting academic. It is strange to you that someone of apparent high standing at the Boston Museum would be willing to hang his hat in such a cheap hotel. Stepping into the poorly lit lobby, you ring the bell. It is answered eventually by a sweating man in a stained shirt. Without looking at you, he snorts and pushes the ledger in your direction. We only have single beds, 99 cents a night. You push aside the ledger and ask him about Victor Ingram. He protests about the anonymity of his clientele, and you slam your palm down violently, insisting you are a friend of Victor's, there to retrieve his belongings. This simple intimidation tactic has the desired effect, and he tosses you a pass key and mutters, "Room 29. Why don't you clean up the mess while you're up there?" Room 29 is in such a state that it must have been vacated in a hurry. You search every nook and cranny, and under the mattress you find a sheaf of notepaper. The paper seems to be text hand-copied from a book. You find page after page of neatly copied entries. The pages described a ritual of the cults of Shub-Niggurath, a very gruesome act, to bring a spawn into our world using a grain of seed consumed by a human. Once the spawn is incubated in the host, it will eventually be cut free and released. Ugh. The host is then sacrificed and the blood of the victim used to nourish the spawn. A few of the pages reveal sketches of artifacts used in ritual. You suppose a museum curator may know something about these drawings. A museum. So we've already talked to Jed. We already talked to... I'm running out of time. I think I've got things figured out. I think Now, why would he be in a room here? Maybe he's partnered with Hartwell to do this, to summon these things. This is odd. I'm running out of options here. I guess I could go... I went to Bancroft Arms, I went to the Rare Books, and I went to see Jedri. I've exhausted that. Where would I find... I am running out of options. Let's see. What can I do? Dr. Gladding? I think Dr. Gladding's on the up and up. He's got his bowl missing. So is the competitor. It's this Ingram guy that I'm trying to find. Victor Ingram is scheduled to arrive. Boston Museum. The Miskatonic exhibit. We just went there, didn't we? The university exhibit, C24. We've already read that. What was his name? Gladding. Does he have a home? Maybe I can go visit where he is. Robert Gladding, F27. Let's do it. Day 4 evening. We're going to go visit Gladding at F27. This could turn out to be nothing. We're going to go there and F27. The small apartment of Robert Gladding is currently unoccupied. A neighbor sees you knocking and tells you he is at work at the University Museum. I already went and talked to him. So we wasted that trip, which means now we have 2 more visits before we get to the X. The X on here, you still get 1 visit when you go there. I think I figured some stuff out. I don't know where Edward is. Was anything mentioned that would be another location? I know his lights at the Emperor home. Maybe. I've got one more trick up my sleeve. That the Emperor home lights. I don't think it's going to have anything to do with it, but let's take a look. The Emperor. That was a hotel, right? Or a boarding home? I can't remember. Boarding houses. Emperor. No, it was a house. The Emperor. Is it a hotel? Hotels. Emperor. No. Where is the Emperor? Is it in here? Emperor. W Emperor. It's a house. U41. Let's do that. Let's go to U41. There is something here. The Emperor home is a dilapidated, crumbling building that exudes a kind of tragic melancholy for its loss of grace. The front door is boarded up, as are the windows. Around the side, you find a window that has had the boards carefully removed and placed neatly on the ground. Squeezing through the narrow opening, you find yourself in a moldy hallway. The smell of rot and damp permeate the air. There is little to discover on the ground floor, apart from evidence that the hallways have been well trodden recently. The dust is thick everywhere except for a trail leading to the stairs. The trail continues up the stairs to the 3rd floor. In a large room, presumably a former music room, judging by the moldy piano pushed into the corner, you find something disturbing. The room contains a large painted pentagram on the wooden floor with unlit black candles at each point. A series of sigils are daubed across the walls and floor with the word Nyarlathotep reoccurring again and again. You try not to stare at the symbols too closely as they make your vision swim, perhaps an illusion from the low light, you are not sure. Between a gap in the floorboard, you spot a small silver medallion, but apart from its usual design, it doesn't tell you much. Well, I've got one more thing. Where is Uptown Park? I mean, West High. What is U1? What is U1? How do you do this? Uptown Park. Uptown Park. Oh, Uptown Laundry. No, that's not it. Uptown Park. Parks. Look up P-A-R-K maybe. Park. Nope. Where is Uptown Park? This is Uptown, all this U area. All right, I am running out of time here. Uptown Park. It's got to be something. It was mentioned in bold, so I'm thinking it's got to be in here. I think the bold items are things that are listed in the journal. So where is Uptown Park? All right, let's just look through them all. It's got to be here, right? Uptown Park. Dorms. Schools. No. Clubs. No. Sports. No. Stores. There's Uptown Laundry, but that is not it. Uptown Park. University. It wouldn't be part of the university, no. Utilities and warehouses. I am at a loss. Boarding houses. Charitable organizations, no. East Church. Funeral homes. Churches abandoned. Local culture. Uptown Park. I am not finding Uptown Park anywhere. Uptown Park. Yeah. Okay. Post office, local government, local lifestyle, medical facilities, newspapers, other locations. I mean, private companies, no. Uptown Park, no. All right, well, I think my investigation is over. We will see what happens. All right, so I will end it there. And the way this works is when you end your investigation, you turn to the back. And it's going to ask a bunch of questions. And you get points. All right, so let's do this. What is the name of the woman who collapsed? I had Martha Modine, so I get 3 points there. All right, so 3. Who was the suspicious character that made a quick exit? Edward. Oh, wait, hold on. Here's the question. Sorry. All right, so question 1. Name. Modine. I got her. Who is the suspicious character? That was Edward Hartwell. 3. How did the woman come by her injuries? She was in, the seed was put inside her. She was the host. 4. What is the danger in the park? What's those young ones? The young of Shub, whatever, blah, blah, blah. What was stolen from the museum? It was the bowl. 6. Who is the out-of-town cultist? It's Ingram. Ingram. Why did the cat hiss at the wall on East Salton Street? Ooh. I do not know. 8. Who did the hospital workers see on the top floor of the Emperor home? Oh, I don't know. What was Barclay Rutger up to? No idea. Oh man, I really missed a lot. What was the name of the late night graveyard visitor? No idea. Why did the late night graveyard visitor visit at night and what was he doing? No idea. 12. What is the word scrawled all over the Emperor home? It was Nyarlathotep. Well, I missed 5, so let's see. Edward, yes. The ritual extract, the spawn of Jub, yep. A tree that, what is the danger at the park? Yep. Stolen, the bowl, yep. Ingram, yep. Why did it was sensing the seeds of Shub Niggurath in Edward's basement. What? That would have been a really hard one to come by. So I got 3 points, 5. If you knew the name of the creature, yes, I did. So I get 3 for that. The bowl gives me 2 points, and Ingram gives me 2. And then I get nothing for 7 through 11. Why? Who did the hospital workers see on the top of the floor? Members of Silver Twilight. Have no idea. What was Barclay Rutger up to? Drinking with his friends on the unvisited isle. Again, no idea. What was the name of the late night visitor? Thomas Ilsley. No idea. Why did he visit at night? He suffers from insomnia. What is the word scrawled near Nyarlathotep? So I do get 1. So my score is 8, 13, 16, 20, 21. Let me double check that. 3, 8, 13, 16, 18, 20, 21. So 21 was my final score. If you visited Uptown Park, encountering the Dark Young, deduct a point. I didn't. I didn't even know how to get there. How do you get to U60? How did you even find that? Locations. Count the number of locations you travel unless a location did not contain an actual written encounter. Deduct 1 for every point you traveled beyond 7. Well, I know that 2 of them I didn't turn into anything. Well, no, that's not true. I only traveled to 1 that didn't turn into anything. And I visited 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 13 stops minus 1 is 12. So I visited 12. It says count the number of locations you travel Deduct 1 for every location you traveled beyond 7. Well, so it's -5. Armitage was able to answer most questions by visiting 7 locations indicated on the following page. Final score. Okay, so my score is 21 minus... hold on. Count. That's my points. Deduct a point. Deduct a point. So I got 21 minus 5 is 16. So my final score is 16. 12 or more points, you win. On the following page, you may view the locations. I got it. The danger twister. Okay. That's cool. So let's read the solution here. In the end, a simple mystery. Back in Armitage's office, you feel the legwork of the week was far from simple. Garrison, reclining near the open window in a leather wingback chair, gives you a look that implies he agrees with you. Garrison says, there was the question of the woman's identity to wrestle with. That seems like the most pertinent fact that we were missing from the start. Armitage nods. Indeed, that was forefront in my mind as well, Inspector. And once I had visited her room at Rennie's boarding house, all right, so he went to her house, I was able to put a name to our young lady, Martha Modine. Garrison looks perplexed. What on earth led you up to French Hill to the Rennie house? Alas, Inspector, so wrapped up were your officers in door-to-door solicitations over the identity of the young lady, they neglected her possessions. Her receipt from the boarding house clearly showed that she intended to stay there for another month. This led me to the fiend Hartwell and his lair, so clean and tidy. Garrison shrugs grudgingly, an admission that the focus on the surrounding streets was the wrong call. Well, what happened to her? Why did that villain Hartwell attack her? That, Inspector, perhaps we will never fully comprehend. Mr. Edward Hartwell had a love greater than the one he professed to hold for Martha. There was a special bond between the two, but Edward was held thrall to dark powers beyond our world. The rantings he uttered upon his arrest were testament to that. His love for the unspeakable evil of Shub Niggurath outweighed even his fondness for the lovely Miss Modine. He must have been planning it for some time, slipping one of those seeds into Martha's food, where it wriggled into her chest cavity, there to grow and feed on her like a parasite. Martha was the unknown host to this evil inciter. I must admit that Weasel Pasquale was of some use there, and it confirmed what I had learned from reading Ibon in the library. A lingering memory of his feelings for Martha must have prompted Edward, in remorse, to redress her and lay her out to expire, rather than complete the sacrifice. It is likely that the secretions of the spawn, that foul mucus, stayed the blood flow for a short time and dulled the pain. As the influence of the spawn waned after its removal, it is clear Martha awoke and was able to stagger back to the street to try and find help. Garrison interjects. Why the attack in the park then? Surely he was taking a risk in such a public place. Armitage pauses, then knowingly responds. It would seem the ritual needed to be overseen by a watcher, a dark young, Shub Niggurath's blasphemous child. Where could one of these evil creatures hide in Arkham but in a heavily wooded park? He needed to conduct the ritual outside. What risk was there in the overgrown part of Uptown Park? With a slice and a snap of bones, he was able to free the unholy spawn and store it in the Cathara birthing dish that was taken from the museum. That is, until he could transfer it to a more secure bindings and hand it off to his friend, Victor Ingram. It is a shame that you missed him, Inspector. Garrison nods at the suitcase next to Armitage's desk, then twinkles back the twinkle in his eye. Aye, a shame. Seems like you and I have a trip to make in the morning. Unfinished business. So he visited Arkham Hospital, which I did. Orne Library, which I did. The museum, which I did. Pasquale Fenton, the occultist. I don't know how he found him. That was a first name. Fenton. Herbert Corbett, I did visit him. Rennie's boarding house, I did. And Edward Hartwell. So I went to way more houses than I needed to. Now, the questions, what I need to find out is, am I supposed to, if I knew the questions in advance, that would not be good, because it would give me hints as to where I need to go. So obviously, the questions come at the end of your investigation. So I did do a pretty good investigation. I got more than 12 points, but obviously it took longer for me to do it than, so there are red herrings. There are things that you will be thrown at that may not involve your time. Like visiting that house only gave me a point, but it took a whole turn, which was 1 point deducted. Remember, you go over 7. So I got the point back, but I spent a point to take an extra day or time to do. I like this. This is neat. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how you feel, but it's kind of cool, like a little choose your own adventure kind of thing. All right, that's all I got. This is Jim the Tabletop Engineer. This is Mythos Tales. I will be back in the future with another episode. If you liked it, let me know. That might light the fire for me to do another investigation faster, or I'll just take my time and do it down the road when I feel like it. All right, that's all I got. I'll see you in a week with another Mythos video. Until then, everybody, take care.
Check out the new RPG and Wargame newsletter. Each week, the Tabletop Engineer shares news, products, Kickstarters, and much more related to the gaming hobby. It's free to subscribe, so check out the link in the video description below to sign up.